Today's lesson is on reflections. Take a minute to read over the learning goal and the scale. Find out where you are on the scale before we begin the lesson. A reflection can also be called a flip. The size and shape of a geometric figure stay the same when you flip the figure across a line. However, its orientation reverses. Notice I read this triangle as triangle BUG, clockwise. However, when I flip it across this line, I will then read it triangle B prime, U prime, G prime in the counterclockwise direction. A reflection across line R, called the line of reflection, is a transformation with these two properties. If a point A is on line R, then the image of A is itself, so A prime will equal A. If a point B is not on line R, then line R is the perpendicular bisector of line B, B prime. A reflection across a line is an isometry. Notice that the pre-image of point B and its image, point B prime, are equidistant from the line of reflection. In example 1, we are going to reflect a point across a line. If point P, 3, 4, is reflected across the line y equals 1, what are the coordinates of its reflection image? Let's start by plotting point P at its ordered pair 3, 4. Now we'll want to graph the line of reflection y equals 1. To graph y equals 1, remember that every y coordinate will equal 1 for this line. Let's start with the ordered pair negative 6, 1. Here you can see negative 6, 1. Let's move on to negative 5, 1. Next, negative 4, 1. Then negative 3, 1. Now negative 2, 1. Negative 1, 1. 0, 1. I think you get the point. Let's go ahead and graph our line. We have now graphed the line y equals 1. This will be our line of reflection. Remember, point P's image will be equidistant from the line of reflection. Since point P is 1, 2, 3 units from the line of reflection, point P prime will be 1, 2, 3 units on the opposite side of the line of reflection. Once we have graphed point P prime, let's write its ordered pair of 3, negative 2. So the coordinates of the image of point P will be 3, negative 2 for P prime. Pause the video and do you try number 1. What is the image of point P at 3, 4 reflected across the line x equals negative 1? Let's start by graphing point P at 3, 4. There's point P. Next, we want to graph the line of reflection at x equals negative 1. Remember, every x coordinate is negative 1 for this line. So on the x-axis, here's negative 1, and if I continue, this is my line of reflection. Now let's see how far away point P is from the line of reflection. 1, 2, 3, 4 units from the line of reflection. So we want to go 4 units in the opposite direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice that point P and point P prime are equidistant from the line of reflection. So the ordered pair for P prime is negative 5, 4. In example 2, we will graph a reflection image. Graph points A, negative 3, 4, B, 0, 1, and C, 4, 2. What is the image of triangle ABC reflected across the y-axis? Let's start by graphing point A at negative 3, 4. Next, let's graph point B at 0, 1. Now let's graph point C at 4, 2. Connect points A, B, and C to form triangle ABC. Since the y-axis is our line of reflection, I'm going to put a red line to remind us. Now we want to find the image of each point. Since point A is 1, 2, 3 units from the line of reflection, A prime will be 1, 2, 3 units on the other side of the line of reflection. Since point B is on the line of reflection, B prime will be on the line of reflection as well. Since point C is 1, 2, 3, 4 units from the line of reflection, C prime will be 1, 2, 3, 4 units from the line of reflection in the opposite direction. Finally, connect points A prime, B prime, and C prime to form triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. We have now reflected triangle ABC across the y-axis, giving us triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. Pause the video and do you try number 2. Graph triangle ABC from problem 2. What is the image of triangle ABC reflected across the x-axis? Let's start by graphing triangle ABC. Since we are reflecting across the x-axis this time, this will be our line of reflection. Since point A is 1, 2, 3, 4 units above the line of reflection, point A prime will be 1, 2, 3, 4 units below the line of reflection. Since point B is 1 unit above the line of reflection, point B prime will be 1 unit below the line of reflection. Since point C is 1, 2 units above the line of reflection, point C prime will be 1, 2 units below the line of reflection. Now, connect points A prime, B prime, C prime to form triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. We have reflected triangle ABC across the x-axis to give us triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. In example 3, we will minimize a distance. Beginning from a point on Summit Trail, a hiking club will build a trail to the Overlook and a trail to Balance Rock. Working under a tight budget, the club members want to minimize the total length of the two trails. How can you find the point on Summit Trail where the two trails should start? Assume the trails will be straight and they will cover similar terrain. First, we know the two ending points will be point O and point R. We need to find point P on Summit Trail, for which segment OP and segment PR is as small as possible. Let's start by reflecting point O across Summit Trail. Next, let's connect points O prime and point R. Now, connect the Overlook to the point of intersection of Summit Trail and segment O prime R. These two paths will be the shortest distance that the club can build. So the shortest paths will be segment OP and segment RP. Pause the video and do you try number 3. Your classmate began to solve the problem above by reflecting point R across Summit Trail or line T. Will her method work? Explain. If we begin by reflecting point R across Summit Trail to give us R prime, then find the point of intersection between R prime O and Summit Trail, we will have the exact same paths. So RP and path OP will give us the same distance of path. Now is your chance to see how well you've understood the lesson. Pause the video and do the lesson check. Don't forget to check your answers on the next slide. If you have any questions or there are any problems you did not understand, please ask me tomorrow in class. If you got everything right on the lesson check and feel you really understand, go ahead and give the challenge a shot. I'm sure you can do it. Now reread the learning goal and the scale. Have you climbed the scale since before we began the lesson?